And welcome back to our final division recap. Woo!
It's
We
been a
are
little while. It's been a whirlwind.
we are through this thing, baby. Well, not
And
quite. We still have one last division on the table today, but before we get into that, I gotta introduce my co-host, Mr. Adam Shaoul. How are you doing today?
I'm very well. And I want to just give a shout out to my brewery, Thick and Thin. It's our 1 year anniversary tomorrow. Right up here. I've been wearing their gear all week. Life comes at you fast. We're
Hell
ready to,
yeah.
you know. So
Yes.
I and there, big boy, and yeah, appreciate your support. So yeah, good times. Hope to see you here there this weekend for the anniversary festivities.
Hell yeah, I will be there. And if you want to come as well, make sure to follow Thick and Thin Brewery on Instagram so you never miss any of their fantastic events. Uh, but moving on from that, let's talk some football. And we got the NFC West on tap today. The NFC West sent two teams to the playoffs last year, had the Super Bowl winner 2 years ago. So it's been a strong division as of recently. Uh, the big dogs in this division have been the San Francisco 49ers, who actually dropped some pretty big news today. Trey Lance did not make it as the QB2. It is Sam Darnold. So
Wow.
That Trey Lance trade might end up being one of the worst trades in history. 3 first round picks to move up 9 spots for a guy who couldn't even make it as QB2. It's pretty incredible.
I mean, but in all fairness, I don't think they've handled it badly. I think they have a Cinderella story in Brock Purdy, you know, the Mr. Irrelevant, Sam Darnold, the comeback kid who's been on what this is fourth team, third team. Um, I actually think the San Francisco 49ers, first off, I didn't think they were going to win the Super Bowl 2 years ago. I thought they were a good team. I thought Kyle Shanahan was a good coach, but I just takes a lot to win the Super Bowl. They did it, you know. The Rams did it, and I felt like they bought it. I was like, well, no shit, the fucking Rams can do it when you go out and pay for a team and you have Aaron Donald and a bunch of stuff on defense, and you go just get a good quarterback. Sounds pretty simple, but 49ers really, really did a good team. They got Debo Samuels. I mean, they have so many good players. They built something there, and I feel like the Trey Lance is not a cloud or a shadow over them, to be honest with you. I think it's surprising that they couldn't make too deep. 100% that's fucked up. But but I think as an organization they've actually handled it very well.
Well, yeah, well, although on in a nutshell, it's a very bad trade, but the 49ers don't care too much because of Mr. Brock Purdy, who was the very last pick in the draft in 2022. Turns out he comes into the system and he just made all the right plays, nothing incredibly flashy, but Kyle Shanahan's system is designed to just get guys open. It's not designed to make tight window throws. It's designed to have Debo Samuel out on the edge and being defenders. It's designed to get Christian McCaffrey wide open running lanes. It's designed to have George Kittle beat his man one on one, getting Brandon Ayuk open down the field. And Brock Purdy was able to do all that with ease. He just made all the right plays. A particular play was the one of Purdy's first games was on a Thursday night where he had a double reverse in the backfield and threw it open down the middle to George Kittle. And I think that was the moment where people were like, okay, this kid's legit. He can run this offense. The question now becomes he's now into year two. NFL offenses, I mean, NFL defenses, maybe they figured him out by now, but I'm not sure. What are your expectations for Brock Purdy in year two?
No, I agree. Second year is always the toughest. Everybody's got your tape, everybody's got your tendencies, everybody got your tick. I mean, this is the NFL. Everybody's watching tape all day, every day. And so they're seeing if you pat the ball on a certain play or take a short step on another play. So I mean, they have that. Plus, he's been injured. Um, he ended the season on an injury, and I know he came back and did well, but I don't know, what his ability to hold out all season again, especially with everybody coming after him. The great thing is he's got a good offensive line, led by Trent Williams and Aaron Brooks on the left side, so that should be good. Spencer Buford is a great player. I think their only weak, I mean, is a great second year player, but their only weak spot. Um, he's
Right tackle too, because they just lost Mike McGlinchey in the offseason. So they're inserting a former fifth round pick in that spot who doesn't have much experience.
Yeah, pretty much the whole right side. But I mean, so that's where the question mark is. But I think with Christian McCaffrey able to run and catch and block and decoy and do everything is his best friend. And then they're stacked on defense, 49ers. They still have a great defensive line and then all the way through the middle. So I mean, it's a pretty easy pick, I would say. The problem really isn't the 49ers being good. The problem is if Purdy gets injured, I don't trust Sam Darnold as much as he's a Cinderella story. They don't trust uh, Lance. So if the Rams can sneak, 9 or 10 wins, I would say honestly the Seahawks have to win 11 games. I don't feel like they can sneak in. Either they're good or they're not. Either Geno Smith and Pete Carroll get on the same page. Um, but I really feel like it's the 49ers division right now. And they did well enough to the offseason not to change my mind.
Yeah, if there's a few weaknesses on this Niners team, well, I mentioned one is the right side of that offensive line. Now they've managed to, you know, get guys in there and coach them up and be able to solidify the offensive line year after year. So it's still a question mark when you got young guys who are unproven. And then you go on the defensive side. I feel like they're very weak at that corner spot. Uh, you got Charvarius Ward, who's a very good number one, but their number two guy is pretty much non-existent. Last year is Diamador Lenore, who struggled in his action when Emmanuel Mosley got hurt. Lenore stepped in to that number two role and was exposed very often. If they're going to match up the Eagles again in the NFC Championship, which could very well happen, you got two prolific receivers on the other side there. That's going to be
What
a
about,
problem for the Niners. Sorry,
sorry, you're already giving up on your Lions? Detroit?
Detroit's the same way. Detroit's got JMO and Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's going to be the exact same problem that the 49ers might have.
That's
I'm
what
just
I'm, that's,
saying I'm just saying possible matchups. I'm not saying that the Eagles are if it's a possible rematch, which the Eagles are one of the best teams in the NFC, could that very well happen. Uh and then but you can't talk about this Niners team without talking about Nick Bosa and how much of a force he's become since he's entered the NFL. It's he's outplayed his brother by a large margin, and he even had like a torn ACL a few years ago. But he's just so strong and fleet-footed, and just the consistency of getting to the quarterback. The Niners have Bose is one of multiple players on this roster that can just make a difference that not many guys in the league can. So that's why the 49ers will be one of the contenders in NFC once again this year.
yeah, I don't see them really getting like I said, they didn't make any bad choices in the offseason. And so the best thing I actually see, besides all that you said, is that their offense and defensive coordinator really like them bringing in Steve Wilks from the Panthers, who was promoted to head coach last season, who did an amazing job, um, and is definitely a leader of men. They were already doing well, like you said, in the middle of that defense, getting after the quarterback time and time again with Bosa. I mean, they were feared last year getting to the quarterback. And then on the offensive side, getting Clint Kubiak from um, Denver. I mean, he's part of he's got good lineage, good background, and I think he's only going to add another young, youthful opinion to an already young and vibrant offensive game plan from Shanahan. So I really think that an underrated increase in their offseason was the coaching staff and all the what they did there.
And they needed it because once again their defensive coordinator got poached. So they gotta be able to pick up right where they left off.
I
So
think they I honestly think they're not going to lose a step. They basically lost a head coach for another head coach, in my opinion. And that's
mhm.
going to be able to bring a new set of eyes and ears to the whole great thing they had going last year. So, I think it's pretty obvious that the 49ers are the cream of the crop here. And nobody puts them up with like the Kansas Cities and the Buffalo Bills and the AFC. They don't even you compared them to the Eagles right there, just because mainly because of the history. But I mean, are they the darling team like the Lions? Are they? I don't think they get enough credit. I don't think they've gotten enough credit.
Well,
Who's their
I certainly
GM?
think. Sorry,
The GM has done a really great job. What's that guy, Lynch?
John
Right?
Lynch, yeah, former
Done a great job.
Bronco safety.
Great job.
Yeah, I I think the 49ers, just based on what they've done year after year, I think they definitely do get that respect. It's just a matter of, when they had a chance to win the Super Bowl a few years ago, came up short.
And
Uh,
Brock Purdy. You can't come in with Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, and keep it going. So I get it that they're not 100% put up with everybody else.
hmm Well, let's move on to some of these contenders because it's not going to be an easy ride for the 49ers, because the Seahawks were a surprise team last year and probably had the best story in all the NFL with Geno Smith coming out of nowhere in on what everyone thought was going to be maybe like a 4-win, 5-win team,
Yeah.
and looked absolutely prolific at times. He showed tremendous accuracy, great touchdown to interception ratio, and now he comes into 2023 with a new second round running back, first round receiver to add to that great running back receiver core they had last year. Talking Kenneth Walker, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, now Jackson Smith and Jigba, Zach Charbonnet, and a solid offensive line that was led by rookies, a pair of bookend tackles chosen in the first and second round who performed tremendously. So, is this a fluke for Gino, or do you think with all the years that he's had learning what it's like to be a quarterback, that this is something that he can keep up?
I think it's similar to the offensive plays. If Pete Carroll can continue to get him open guys, and make plays to make a lot of space. I think Gino was blessed with he didn't dink and dunk it, but he had a great game plan. And again, it's second year. People are watching film. He's not, the most athletic. Everybody thought he was like a running quarterback. I mean, I thought he was going to be like the next Ben Roethlisberger when he came out of West Virginia. I was like, this boy, he's tall, he's big. They're going to let him run over some people. I felt like at West Virginia in a lot of places, they didn't run him enough. And now I see why. They need to leave him in the pocket. They need to get his feet planted like two big trees. I mean, it's not what you normally see. He's not like the most um technically savvy quarterback, but when he plants his feet and he throws the ball and Pete Carroll gives him time, I mean, that's what he did last year, and we'll see if he can do it again. The wide receiver out of OSU, I can't say his name. You know how to
Jackson,
say his name.
Mr.
Is he
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
is he injured or not? Is he going
He
to come
did
back?
he did get hurt. He hurt his wrist. They're saying 1 to 3 weeks. So very likely that he could be ready for the season opener. He might not
But
be,
was
but it's not a long-term thing.
prone at OSU? I really don't know.
No, he had a hamstring injury last year, but I'm pretty sure that he was just held out because he wanted to protect his draft
And
stock.
this is going to be Geno Smith's biggest. If if he actually has a second year, it's going to be because of him. It's going to be
Mhm.
because that wide receiver is fast. That guy just I watched him though just at the end of the season in college at OSU, and it was a boy sized person, a man boy playing against toddlers. I mean,
Yeah.
he made people look silly. He looked small himself, but it was like watching kind of Pee Wee football, and he just ran around people. It was awesome. And if Seahawks have that and Geno healthy, I actually think that it's just a big window. Are they going to win 8 games or are they going to win 11 games? I definitely think their floor is 8. They're not winning 6 or 7. It's an 8-win season. And I just don't think if they're 10 wins, that means somebody else in the division probably beat them. They're going up against two other teams kind of in the middle of the pack with everybody else. And I don't know. I think they're the team that has to really take it. And they can.
Well, I think since Geno obviously wasn't the problem, he was more of the solution last year. The reason why the Seahawks weren't better than they were, well, they had some major issues on defense. The two big issues that they had were getting to the quarterback and stopping the run. In fact, they were so bad stopping the run that they were literally dead last. And if you need an example, think Josh Jacobs' 86-yard touchdown run in overtime for them to lose the game. Uh, they did make one major move on the defensive side and grabbing former Seahawk great Bobby Wagner back from the Rams, now back in the Seahawks. Now he's not the same All Pro that he used to be, but he's coming off a great season with the Rams, and he will certainly be a huge leadership presence on a young defense. The other,
Parallel push. Sorry.
yes, yeah, Devin Bush as well. Bush has been kind of disappointing so far in his limited action in his career, but he
I think
certainly,
Wagner is a good idea.
yeah, he certainly has the right guy to learn under. But the other thing I talked about, putting pressure on the quarterback, you would have figured maybe the Seahawks would go out and get like Tyree Wilson or Jalen Carter in the draft. They ended up going Devin Witherspoon, which will give them a very, very good cornerback duo. If not this year, then next year with him and Tariq Woolen. But you have to wonder if they're really thinking that Uchenna Nwosu and Devin Taylor are going to take a leap forward this year when they were not really that great last year.
I think he keeps playing into a system, and you have the same defensive coordinator again. He's trying to create some consistency. I think getting a cornerback in the draft that's a starter that's going to be able to play in the zone that Carroll likes. Um, I don't think he's ever had an elite defense since the Legion of Boom. And I don't think that was even, I don't think he lucked into the to the Legion of Boom or Doom or whatever the fuck their name is. Um, he picked some really good guys that dropped to him, and his system was perfect for him. Now he's trying to get some guys, lower guys, some big guys, and blend. And I don't know. I think he's a savant. I think Pete Carroll has a sense of consistency that's been there, and I think he's a system defense. That defense is something that he tinkers with these little small little pieces and makes little changes and gets no name guys to fill in certain holes that always step up. They're not going to be a top 10 defense, but if they can be better than last year, which is obviously the goal, when I don't think they're going to drop off. If they take 2 or 3 steps forward and Geno Smith doesn't get hurt, and they don't have a major injury, I don't see why they can't win some games.
I
You know,
agree. I agree. I think they're a fringe playoff team, uh, with the potential, honestly, to boom even higher if all those young players take those leaps forward and they make the necessary improvements on defense. But it's kind of you could say it's kind of on Geno's shoulders, but it's really not. He's got all the tools he needs to
yeah.
succeed. It's going to be hard for him to fail with that wide receiver core. I think any quarterback will do well with that, with what he's got. So we'll see how Geno performs in year two. We're all very excited for it. Uh, Excitement hasn't really been the word for Rams fans, more like letdown. So they were champions 2 years ago, and last year was a complete 180. It was mostly due to injuries, but they did go all in on that 2021 season with a lot of experienced players, and the retirement of Andrew Whitworth, I didn't think that that one retirement alone would make such an impact, but it was it was a tremendous impact. The offensive line was a disaster last year. Joe Noteboom, replacement left tackle, was like a turnstile at times last year, and the rest of the offensive line just kept turning guys from it for injuries. Like it seemed like they had a new starting lineup each week, which is a problem because Matthew Stafford, it doesn't seem like he can stay healthy anymore at this point in his career. Uh, with all the Rams' injuries last year, do you see potential for a bounce back for this team now that the guys are uh, healthy again? I'm talking Stafford, Cup, and Donald.
I'm gonna start where you did with the fans and the team and the city of LA.
Yeah,
I'll be honest with you, they're not gonna have a bunch of rah rah rally fans behind them. They lost all momentum. If any city in the world is worse for fair weather fans, is LA.
preach. Yeah,
And um, I think that Stafford is a great quarterback. He won a Super Bowl. It was on his shoulders. He did it. You can't take that away from him. I think that Aaron Donald is amazing. He's a giant. He's what you see on TikTok when they talk about giants in the past worlds.
yep.
And he and Cooper Cup, I mean, I love him. Who if you don't like Cooper Cup, go fuck yourself and stop watching football. You know? And so I mean, they got pieces. They added a few in Demarcus Robinson and like you said, uh they have a core and they've lost a lot of players. And I wanna think that they're a 9 or 10 win season. If you look at the stats and you look at the schedule, they could win 9 or 10 games easily. But the problem is for a team like this, they're gonna lose some games they should win, and they should win some games they're gonna lose. And that sounds like a classic John Madden quote. It says nothing, but it says everything. This team doesn't really have direction. This team doesn't have a reason to really will itself to win. And I think they're gonna punt this one in. Everybody's been saying they're rebuilding since last year. Why are they not rebuilding this year? What did they do to show you that they're not rebuilding this year?
This team has fallen off greatly from where they were. You look at, this offseason they lost Bobby Wagner to the Seahawks. Jalen Ramsey is gone. Um, guys from they don't have and they haven't replaced any of these guys. You at linebacker, their most experienced player is Ernest Jones, who's a going into his third NFL season. You got at corner, they don't have anyone remotely close to replacing Ramsey. Um, at wide receiver two, they were supposed to have Allen Robinson fill that void, but he didn't do that. He got shipped off, and now they're inserting Van Jefferson up a slot into that wide receiver two role, hoping that he can become that second guy to take attention away from Cooper Cup. You look at their offensive line. They the Rams like literally didn't sign anybody this offseason. They signed literally one guy. And because they're in cap hell, which is understandable, so they're trying to get out of cap hell. But in terms when it comes to winning football games, there's not enough experience on this team and just generally just not enough talent. This is one of the weakest rosters in the NFL. It's going to be propped up by a really good head coach in Sean McVay, who honestly, if he can get this roster to the playoffs, you might as well call him God of the NFL world. But
It would
yeah,
have been him, the Redskins, when he was, let's say something happened and he was promoted to head coach when he was the Redskins and won that coaching job instead of coming here. He would be doing this every year. This is basically historically like a Redskins roster
mm-hmm,
because Snyder would put him in cap hell and you'd have to get all these like bits and pieces. Half these starters only starters because of cap issues, you know?
literally,
And
yeah.
And so maybe not, I'm not saying half, I'm being facetious, obviously, but I'm saying so many of these starters are just elevated because it's three guys on nothing contracts and they could change at any time and they basically just fill in a name, you know? And so I want them to win. And I think, like you said, Sean McVay is probably their MVP this year if they do well.
Yeah. Well, they're one Matthew Stafford injury away from the whole season falling apart.
Are
And
you kidding me? What are you talking about? Benson or whatever what's his name from Georgia?
Stetson
He
Bennett, listen, I love a good story as much as you do, but he's not going to get this is the NFL. He's not going to win a lot of games
like
trying to throw to a triple covered
irrelevant.
Cooper Cup. So
Hold on. Are you telling me he's worse than Mr. Irrelevant at the 49ers, Brock Purdy?
we have first of all, we haven't seen anything. Uh is he worse than Brock Purdy? Honestly, yeah. I think a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL are worse than Brock Purdy right now.
I'm just messing. I'm just messing. Now,
Good, good, good.
uh
Uh
I think, if like I said, if McVay can coach anybody up, he might be able to get over a Matt Stafford injury. I do think he could. That wouldn't be the biggest problem. I really think it's the whole team. Can he continue to get them everybody to buy in? It's just going to be one of the biggest coaching jobs between calling plays and designing shit and keeping that team together.
Definitely. Well, while this roster lacks talent, it certainly isn't the void of talent that we have for this next team, whose season was 2020, whose 2023 season was pretty much over before it even started. I'm talking about the Arizona Cardinals. I'm talking about Kyler Murray, who tore his ACL in December. So he's not going to be ready for the start of the season. Probably won't play till midway through the season. So the Cardinals know this. They have a high draft pick. So they pretty much sold off all their remaining assets. Well, at least tried to. Tried to sell off DeAndre Hopkins, did not get any takers, ended up releasing him. Then you got on the defensive side, you got JJ Watt, who retired from the NFL, wish him a very good retirement. One of my favorite players of all time. But they don't have any sort of replacement for him. Uh, what would success look like for you for the Cardinals this season?
That's probably one of the hardest questions because an answer the best answer would be them just getting the first pick. Everybody, no major injuries to anybody, and the first overall pick. That's the team that I think is going to get it. That said, they're going to have to mortgage something because Kyle Murray. I mean, they gave him a big contract. I honestly think this is less about this season's success and more questions for next year because this season's success, is it going to equate to success next year? I really don't know. I mean, there are so many questions, and it's obvious their GM doesn't isn't doing a very good job. We talked about John Lynch at the 49ers. This guy's doing the exact opposite. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's just been year after year. They're exciting. They do a good PR that the Cardinals are. I mean, you always think the Cardinals are going to win. Don't you feel like that every year?
Does kind of
They're
seem like it does kind of seem like that. I mean, it's a nice logo. It's a hot city, good weather, like
you
uh
know
good
they
vibes essentially. Good
you
vibes in Arizona.
Mike Wilbon from PTI. It's whatever that crap is that he talks about the Cardinals every year because he lives there and has Phoenix in the background. I just think that this team is like 2 years away from a rebuild. You know how you say like, all right, they're gonna rebuild next year, and then it's like, how long is the rebuild gonna be? They're like 2 or 3 years off of rebuilding. Yeah, they're that far in a hole that I don't think a new GM, the number one draft pick, and a new head coach, a new staff. I don't even think a new ownership. Just wipe everything out, totally nuke it. And I still think that it's like the Browns, man. it's hard being the Browns, and you want the Cardinals to get into the playoffs like the Browns would, right?
Well,
And
I hate the Browns for a record, but um, yeah,
again, in the
I I
command,
I mean, yeah, I would like to see the Cardinals have success, and what they do have going for them is they acquire the Texans' first round pick next year. If the Texans don't have a great season, which is very likely, the Cardinals could end up with two top five picks, which will be huge for their rebuild. Uh, but that's about that's about all there is in terms of excitement for
do you keep Kyle Murray, or do you go to what is it, Cam Williams from
Mr. Caleb Williams from
Caleb?
USC.
Yeah,
That's a it's going to be a burning question. We're going to have to Kyler Murray is not going to be able to not going to play his best football. It's going to be a matter of like effort. I mean, he's coming off a torn ACL, so he's got to get a little bit of time, a little bit benefit of doubt. And they did give him that big contract, but yeah, Caleb Williams is the consensus number one choice right now. It's going to be hard for them to pass it up. I mean, they might get a king's ransom for that number one pick, but
I would
um,
say trade Kyle Murray for a second, third, and fourth. Go get Caleb Williams. That's your number one pick. Pick whatever you want at your number five. Pick like a wide receiver, and get an extra pick for the second, third, and fourth round. And I mean that would be my. You asked me what would be my success. Is that trade something like that?
yeah, uh, getting someone like a Marvin Harrison or Brock Bowers to pair with their new quarterback would be a great start for this new regime that's coming up. Uh, if we're talking about this year, though, uh, I think the offense will be okay. I mean, Colt McCoy has been a good game manager throughout these recent years. He won't make too many big mistakes, and they've got some pieces on this offense that will help move things forward, like James Conner, Zach Ertz. It's the defense that is going to probably set some. They might set records this year for points given up. They got no pass rushers, no linebackers. If Buda Baker looks like he's going to play, but who knows if he? It seemed like he was going to quit on the team at one point, and they got rid of Byron Murphy in the offseason as well. So they're bad on all levels of defense. Isaiah Simmons was supposed to be this jack of all trades linebacker slash safety, and he happens to just be one of the worst players on a defense all of a sudden. Uh, so if you have any players in fantasy and they're playing the Cardinals, you should probably start them because they'll probably get a lot of points. So it's going to be a rough year for Arizona, but the draft is coming up soon. Don't you worry. Set those calendars to April, Cardinals fans.
I mean, I feel bad. Who's their coaching staff? Jonathan Gannon from the Falcons and the Titans.
He's from the Eagles, actually. He was their
Uh,
DC last year.
I don't know. They were stacked on the roster. I mean, I just think that this is a coaching staff that's picked to lose.
Yeah, that's the no better way to put it. So let's talk bold predictions before we head out here. What's your bold prediction for the NFC West this year?
Uh, I think that Dabo is actually going to stay healthy, and he's going to have, you know, 1,000 to 1,200 yards and like 15 touchdowns at least. He's gonna
Talking
run yards.
Debo?
Yeah, Debo.
He
Sorry.
said like Dabo Swinney.
Yeah.
He's in the
From
NFL.
and I think
I got
the 49ers are gonna do some really good things with that coaching staff, and they're gonna change things up. And I don't think that it's gonna matter who the quarterback is. I even think Lance can fucking win a game on that team. That's how big it is. I don't and if you want another bold prediction, I think he's gonna come in and win a game or two. I think Purdy could get injured, have a like soft tissue injury, have a bum shoulder for 4 games, and somebody in come in and win 2 games. Um I
That's a
think
bold prediction considering Lance might not even be on the team in like a week. So I like your
I
style.
Sam Darnold, whoever, somebody's going to win other games besides him, and they're going to win 12 games. The other bold prediction is I think the Seahawks are going to be nipping at their toes at 11 wins. I don't think they're going to be 9 or 10. I think they're going to be right there. So if my prediction's wrong about the 49ers, I think the Seahawks are going to come in and be the darling, and everybody's going to love them, and people aren't going to like the 49ers. They're going to be okay with them, but nobody's going to buy into Brock Purdy and that quarterback situation, even though they've sold it well. I think they have another bad fan base that doesn't have Joe Montana, and they're a great team, but they're a first round out in the playoffs. The 49ers, in my opinion. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and I think that the Seahawks are better built to challenge the Lions and challenge other teams in the playoffs. It's a different season in the playoffs. And Pete Carroll has gone out. He doesn't have like the biggest track record. I mean, he's won some Super Bowls, but I feel like for some reason this year's team with this consistent coaching staff, and I could be wrong, they could win 8 games. The fuck do I know? Then the rest of the league it doesn't really fucking matter. What's
Yeah.
your what
Let's see. Bold prediction for me. Uh, I'm gonna go with Tariq Woolen on the Seahawks. I think he gets an All Pro this year. Uh, I think with the way Pete Carroll is able to mold Richard Sherman into an All Pro corner, we already see the potential of Woolen. He's got the size, he's got the speed. Now he's got another corner on his side, another highly ranked guy to take some of the pressure off him. I think Woolen gets an All Pro, and for for the Cardinals, I don't necessarily think 0-17 is out of the question. It's I think if they beat any team, looking at their schedule, I mean, they play Washington, they play Houston, but I think both those teams beat them. I think they beat the Rams in one game this year, and I think that's their one win. If they don't beat the Rams, I think they go 0-17. I think they're that bad.
well? And you said Houston, right? But it's
Yeah, Houston's I think is much better this year, so I think they'll beat the Cardinals pretty easily in that game.
yeah. No, I mean that's that's definitely possible. Besides a fluke. Um, Atlanta, as much as I like them, if they can't get their quarterback straight, they could be floundering. But again, it's at home for them. They come back, probably get their butt beat in Cleveland, and if they can rally that game at home with Atlanta just before they leave to go back to Houston before that loss to Los Angeles, I mean, win to Los Angeles, it's going to be sometime in the middle of the season.
Yeah,
Um,
well, it's not looking likely, but you know what is likely? Us kicking ass in the show. Thank you for recapping all the divisions, Mr. Shaoul. And we will see you for some more episodes throughout the NFL season. But for now, what do you have to say to the camera, Mr. Shaoul?
Been a great year. Thank you very much for inviting me. Love talking football with you, bro. We're just like two fucking regular guys from two different generations.